It is my incredible pleasure to introduce this next person. One of my favorite phrases to describe Lynn is that she is a serious programmer. And wow, does she have those creds to back that up. She is a staff engineer at Spotify, a tech lead in the Spotify's MLAL platform, and chair of the Global Council of PyLadies. She's also the author and maintainer of the open source project Interrogate, the founder of the SF chapter of PyLadies, current and fellow and former vice chair and board member of the Python Software Foundation, and a member of the Django Software Foundation. She is a seasoned speaker on building, maintaining distributed systems and developer tooling, and she also teaches Python for the Industrial Engineering and Operations Department at Columbia University. You may also have seen her in a commercial once while watching a baseball game on your television, where she talked about her work at Spotify, and you probably have screamed out at your TV going, "Hey, I know her from that PyCon!" So please give her a fantastic and warm welcome as the second keynote of PyCon 2025.
Thank you. Ooh. It is quite bright up here, they're not lying. All right, let's see if my clicker works. Okay. So you're probably wondering how I got here. At that moment, I certainly was. But this is me being shoved out of a perfectly good airplane over New Zealand. I wouldn't call myself a thrill seeker. I'm not a particularly spontaneous person. But at this point in my life, I needed something drastic. Because what you don't see in this photo is everything that led up to it. So a few months earlier, I found myself on a different airplane, sitting in, I think, like 48E, which is like the middlest of middle seats. And I was feeling drained and jaded. The flight attendant just came by with a drink cart and skipped over me. It was an honest mistake. There were a lot of people on that plane, and to their credit, they came right back once they noticed. But by then, it was too late. A tear started forming, and then a few more tears. And then, to the horror of my neighbors, I started ugly crying. Something in me kind of just broke open. I didn't know it at the time, but I wasn't experiencing just burnout, but it was bone-deep exhaustion. It was disconnection from myself and from joy. In late 2017, I got promoted to staff engineer, and I worked incredibly hard for that title. I established myself as the go-to person at the company for anything Python related. I helped shepherd dozens of internal projects into the open source, and I was, quite proud of all that I accomplished. Naturally, I didn't want any of my extracurricular work to get in the way of time and support of my own team, so I made a compromise with myself. I would just work more. I took advantage of my natural insomnia and would get in to work early, often before 8 a.m., sometimes even before 7 a.m. And those quiet morning hours were the time that I carved out for myself to work on all the things that I thought I had to prove. So suffice it to say, I burnt out. That's no surprise there. But months prior to this promotion, I was speaking at a conference in Italy and about to go straight to another conference in Russia. But there was this kind of deep, overwhelming ache that I just wanted to be home, that I just wanted to be with my cat. I mean, can you blame me? She's wicked cute. So embarrassingly, I bailed on that second conference, and I've felt ashamed ever since. I rebooked my flight back to the States at the last minute, and I, of course, was stuck in that now infamous middle seat. My story isn't unique. but it is the logical conclusion to a myth that we've all been sold, that growing up means leaving play behind. There's this persistent cultural assumption that children are adults in the making, that childhood is just a passageway through adulthood, that play, imagination, and wonder, all of it is just filler until we become useful and productive and grown up. I remember feeling this pressure as a teenager. I'm sure I'm not the only one here. I did not like high school. Sure, hormones are running wild and cliques suck, and there was a lot of pressure to become this well-rounded student so you can get into all the good schools. But for me, I didn't particularly like high school because I didn't actually feel like my actual age. I didn't feel like me yet. I felt kind of held back that once I was an adult, I would feel more like myself. I remember I was fighting with my mom at one point. I can't remember what about, but in a moment of classic teenage melodramatic frustration, I yelled at her, "Oh my God, I cannot wait to grow up so I can pay my own bills." We weren't fighting over money, but paying bills, that was the symbol of independence and freedom to me. That was what I thought adulthood meant, being serious and responsible and being in control of my life. Of course, life came at me fast, and I soon came to regret what I said. My first job out of college paid me so little that I had to move back home. So much for financial freedom, and so much for adulthood being the golden age of selfhood. Later on, I came across this quote from C.S. Lewis, and it resonated in a way with me that I didn't fully appreciate until much later. He said, "Critics who treat adult as a term of approval instead of merely a descriptive term cannot be adults themselves. To be concerned about being grown up, to admire the grown up because it is grown up, to blush at the suspicion of being childish, these things are the marks of childhood and adolescence. When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and the desire to be very grown up." So C.S. Lewis captures something pretty profound here, I think, that our obsession with appearing adult is in itself a kind of immaturity. That the real mark of maturity is not taking ourselves too seriously, not being afraid to be playful or seen as childlike. Folks have often referred to this as what's called the second naivete, a stage of adulthood where we stop rejecting the magic of childhood and start embracing paradox, imagination, and mystery once more. It's a stage where we are no longer embarrassed about, the things that we love, and we reconnect with parts of ourselves that we left behind when we were in a rush to grow up. For me, that reconnection didn't happen immediately, and I don't even think I fully realized that it needed to happen. I spent years trying to prove myself as a super serious and important adult. I chased productivity and perfectionism. Having been that well-rounded student kind of carved me into an adult that always chased the next level up, that always kind of jumped through hoops laid out before me, that kind of wanted to complete this hidden life checklist, just to keep moving up. Of course, that's not sustainable. So I want to go back to this cultural assumption that childhood is merely preparation, that children are just adults in the making. Because if that is true, then how do we explain all the well-adjusted adults who are bitter and uncreative and fearful and hostile and depressed and anxious and burnout and bone-tired like I was? Rather, instead, what if we have it backwards? Instead of seeing as children as immature adults, what if we thought of adults as atrophied children? As beings who once knew how to play, how to imagine, how to feel joy without productivity, and who essentially unlearned it all in pursuit of being mature. We kind of even joke about it today. It might be more of a millennial thing, but we sometimes hear, oh, I did my laundry, I filed my taxes, I made a dentist appointment, look at me, I'm adulting. Or, I just can't adult today, or whatever. These phrases are funny, or maybe they're kind of played out by now and a little bit cringy, but they sort of reveal something deeper. That being an adult feels like a costume that we put on, that we mask with competence and responsibility, and that we're all just kids and still trying to figure things out. That maybe we just want to go outside and play. So maybe that's not a failure. Maybe actually it's a clue. Play isn't something that we should grow out of. It is something that we do grow away from until we are reminded how vital it is. But what is play? What makes something play versus leisure or a distraction or just kind of goofing off and derping on the internet or whatever? There's this professor at Boston College, Dr. Peter Gray, who researches play, which I kind of find ironic, where his work is to study play. But he defines play with 5 distinct features. The first is play is about process, not the outcome. There's no finish line, and the goal is doing. It's not winning or publishing or monetizing or whatever. You're not playing to impress, you're playing to be present. The second feature of play is that it's self-chosen and self-directed. It only counts as play if you choose to do it. And the moment that someone else is making you do it, or grading you on it, or paying for it, it is not play anymore, it is work. The third aspect is play actually has rules, but these rules are created by the players themselves. These rules are flexible, negotiated, changeable, and that's part of the fun. It helps us learn how to navigate cooperation and boundaries and creativity all at once. Fourth aspect is play is imaginative. It's not literal. It lives in a world of what if. It's the brain's way of asking, how else could things be? The last feature of play is that it happens in a relaxed and alert state of mind. You're engaged, but you're not stressed out. It's the brain's ideal learning zone, and it's where we take risks and make connections and grow without the fear of failure hanging over us. And this has actually been observed across all species, or a lot of species. Young mammals, all young mammals instinctively play by nature. They take intentional risks to experience fear and excitement within a safe space, ensuring that they don't lose themselves when real danger arises. Play provides them with physical skills like running, climbing, balancing, and nurtures emotional resilience. They learn how to be around other mammals without aggression, to cooperate, to form social bonds that are important for their survival and well-being. Now, animals raised without play, without these crucial experiences, they become overwhelmed in these new environments. They react with undue fear, with aggression or paralysis. They struggle to understand social signals, maybe misinterpret the intentions of others around them. This was definitely how I started to feel during that tearful flight that I had. But without play, the capacity to adapt and to connect and to thrive diminishes significantly. These elements of play, they're not just theoretical. They've actually shaped human innovation. So sometimes play is actually at the spark of scientific revolutions. Take this dude, Luke Howard. Howard was a chemist in 19th century London and a member of this quirky philosophical debating club called the Askesian Society. Now, it was not your typical club. It had very strict rules where each week a different member had to present a paper of theirs. And if they didn't have a paper, they had to pay a fine. Now, Howard, he lived during a time, what historians call the Great Sorting of Nature. So the Enlightenment era of the 18th century kind of brought in a wave of curiosity. So scientists were eagerly classifying everything from plants to rocks to animals. They believed that naming something could unlock its secrets, that there was a sense of if we could name it, maybe we can understand it, and if we can understand it, maybe we could better understand our place with it. But there is one part of nature that was left mysterious at this point in time. It was the atmosphere. Its behavior was seen as unpredictable and transient, seemingly kind of beyond the grasp of scientific understanding. So when it came time for Luke Howard to present a paper of his own, he didn't have anything ready. Not wanting to pay a fine, of course, he quickly improvised. He decided, half-jokingly, to classify clouds. Until then, clouds were described poetically like woolly clouds in mackerel skies, named after sailors and farmers and whatnot. Howard instead opted for Latin, just to sound scientific, and gave us the three main types of clouds that we have today: the stratus, cumulus, and cirrus. So while this paper was written tongue-in-cheek, it became wildly popular and prompted a whole new branch of science, meteorology, of which he is considered the father. Funnily enough, Luke Howard wasn't the only one interested in naming clouds. Over in France, Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, who was best known for an early theory of evolution, he had a different idea. He also tried to classify clouds, but he named them after vegetables. Names like cauliflower cloud or artichoke sky. He did publish his work a year before Howard, but it was in some obscure journal. And apparently Napoleon didn't really like Lamarck that much, so he kind of denounced his veggie ideas, which might be why the scientific community didn't really take to a broccoli forecast or whatever. But what's my point here? In all honesty, I just love Howard's story because it shows that advances in human knowledge, in our culture, and in society, they're often not due to a person's greatness, but more likely from a spark of just having fun and being playful, maybe from some happy accidents. It's not just humans who play with imagination. Some animals, like crows, show a surprising capacity for playful intelligence. There's this video that captures this perfectly. I'm not showing it because I could only find a potato quality on the internet, but there's this video of a crow spotted skiing down a snowy roof. It's holding a plastic lid and carefully positions itself and then kind of glides down. And then once it reaches to the bottom, it flies back up with the slide or with the lid on its teeth or beak. And then it positions itself on a melted patch of the roof and tries to slide down again, but couldn't, even after a few scooches. So the crow kind of repositions itself back on a more snowier patch of the roof and then has a more successful second run. So this is referred to as unrewarded object exploration, where the crow isn't gaining any immediate tangible benefit that actually aids in its survival. Its only reward is just the fun of it. Beneath play, however, there is some subtle learning. The crow is essentially exploring its environment, discovering aspects of friction, how to use a new tool effectively, basically experimenting with physics under the guise of play. Crows are indeed some of the smartest creatures in our animal kingdom. They are capable of making rule-guided decisions, of creating and using tools. I appreciate that folks are laughing at the titles I made up. They also have an innate sense of what numbers are. And surprisingly, I just learned that they are able to understand recursion, albeit grammatical recursion, but that might be because we haven't put a computer in front of a crow yet. A crow has like intelligence and playful intelligence, and it's not incidental, it's foundational to them. Animals use play to build essential skills, safely explore unfamiliar environments, to strengthen social bonds, and sometimes literally just for fun. The point is, playfulness maps to a level of intelligence. And humans play far more extensively and creatively than any other species. It leads to cooperative, resilient, and adaptive children, and it's nature's way of ensuring that kids develop successfully into adulthood. So maybe we've lost sight of play in adulthood, and not just play itself, but the permission to play, the belief that play is valid and that it matters and that it is ours. As I said, I went skydiving because I needed something drastic. I wasn't necessarily chasing adrenaline. I was just trying to, feel a sense of freedom, a sense of joy, kind of play around and have fun. Because sure, if you're feeling trapped and disconnected and crying on an airplane, the obvious solution is to throw yourself out of one. So what happened after I threw myself out of a plane? Skydiving was the jolt, but jolts fade, right? So what I needed now was space and time and a feeling of safety. I needed to give myself permission to make something that no one else needed, that no one wanted, and that the outcome wasn't its purpose. So I picked up a paintbrush. I haven't really painted before, but there was this art project that I stumbled online called the 100 Days Project. It was mostly an Instagram thing where people commit to making something creative like for 100 days straight, whether it be art or music or poems, whatever. So I said, why not? I had no goal. I wasn't trying to get better at painting. I just wanted to hopefully make something pretty and enjoy the process. Definitely was not a pretty start. I feel like day 1 was utter trash. I don't even know what that is. Day 6, maybe more colorful trash, maybe same colors. I don't know. I don't know what I was going for. But day 31, I don't think it was half bad. They're cats. You can't go wrong with cats. Midway through, I feel like I started to get a little bit better. Around day 70, I started to feel like I had a style, maybe a voice even. I was starting to become proud of what I was making. Not because it was useful or that someone wanted to buy my artwork. It's because I made it and I was having fun making it. It was self-directed. No one told me what to do, how to do it, or just follow my curiosity. So I gave myself the rule of producing something each day for 100 days straight. Some artificial pressure not tied to work or performance or anything. And it was definitely a forcing function. This commitment forced me into having fun, into setting aside time for unproductivity. So it turns out that joy doesn't arrive fully formed. Sometimes you have to build it layer by layer, starting with them shitty paintings. After that, I feel like I was kind of done with that endeavor, and I needed something else. So I picked up the bass again. I hadn't played since high school, back when I was an overachieving student in orchestra, or what I lovingly call dorchestra. I had long given up being a musician. My adulting teenage brain decided against studying music in college. I wanted a paying job after all, but as we learned, that didn't go well. But suddenly I wanted to make noise again. I wanted to get calluses on my fingers, and so I put myself out there. At Spotify, we have these employee band nights called Friday Night Live, and I joined a cover band of my favorite band, Muse. We were called Fake Muse. We leaned hard into this. We all wore these light-up glasses, which you can, I guess, kind of see. I don't think I'll ever look this cool again. But we weren't professionals. We weren't trying to make it or anything. We set the rules. We chose the songs. We set the playlist or playset or set list. Sorry. We chose the vibe, and we made it up all ourselves. And so we were just playing to have fun. I remember our singer. She was like so bad. Apparently, she had a vocal coach, and she had regular voice lessons, but not once was she in tune. She was like so wrapped up in her own confidence, and she had no self-awareness that we were kind of all cringing around her. More power to her, I guess. She kind of just threw herself into the part. But when I remember that night that we played, I don't really think about her. I think about the many nights of band practice that I had to learn the complex bass lines, and that I got to play my favorite music on stage, and how many of my friends were in the audience cheering me on. The best part, in my opinion, is that cover band is where I met my now fiancé. He was my drummer. He's also a Python-loving dork like myself, sitting right there. And that photo up there, it was taken before we even started dating. It was taken by my best friend, who is sitting right next to him. That whole phase of second naivete, of rediscovery, it brought me back to imagination, to curiosity. It brought me back to joy, to play. So if I ask myself, have I recovered from burnout? Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. My recovery wasn't planned. It was stumbled upon through desperate measures and, I guess, happy accidents. I certainly didn't recover by working harder or optimizing my habits or more adulting. I got better at remembering how to play. I jumped out of an airplane, I painted shitty watercolors, I blew out my eardrums and collected way too many guitar pedals. And all of it, literally all of it, was just play. It wasn't me being productive, it just brought me joy for joy's sake. Each form of play kind of built up on the last, kind of creating a scaffolding back to myself. So play isn't a childish distraction. Crows know this. They slide down rooftops for no other reason than fun. Luke Howard knew this. He didn't mean to revolutionize meteorology. He just didn't want to pay a fine and ended up cheekily naming the sky. It's unfortunate that we abandon play once we feel like we're not allowed to anymore. But, in my opinion, that's nonsense. So now I think, I want to play before promotion. I want to play before perfection or before process or panic or, play before the world tells me otherwise. And even if it tells me otherwise, I'll just continue playing because whatever. There's this story of Kurt Vonnegut where he told his wife that he wanted to buy an envelope. His wife says, "Well, you're not a poor man. You can just go online and buy 100 envelopes and throw them in the closet." So he pretends not to hear her. He goes out to get a single envelope because apparently he has a hell of a time in the process of buying a single envelope. He meets a lot of people. He sees some cute babies. And apparently a fire engine goes by and he gives them a thumbs up. He asks a random woman what kind of dog it is. And the moral to the story is, in his words, we're all in here to just fart around. Our legacy won't be measured by commits or pull requests or promotions. It's measured in moments of pure presence, in the joy that we create, in the connections that we foster, in the play that we dare to embrace despite every cultural message telling us to grow up. So if I can leave you with one thing today, is just go have fun and fart around. My name is Lynn Root. Thank you so much for having me up here, and I hope you have a fun rest of the conference. Thank you.